Alrighty. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you're at in the world. Thank you guys for popping in today. We're going to be going over DeFi tuna. I've been talking about a lot and answering probably too many of the same questions in general, and so I wanted to walk you through this platform. First off, there is a stark difference between what this server is based around and what DeFi tuna is. Um, DeFi Tuna is based off of Orca Pools, which is a CLLM, standing for Concentrated Liquidity Market Making. What we do here in this server is obviously dynamic liquidity market making, which means we get to be very specific in the bin array in which we want a price range to move. With that, with concentrated market liquidity making, Orca pools allow you to either do a full range for an estimated 24-hour yield that is rather low, or you can do a customized 24-hour yield. So you can see here for a 3% range to the upside and the downside, you can be making at around about 1.2%. Now, you guys in this server are very standard to seeing those 10% gains in 10 minutes or 100% gains in similar time frames on these meme coins. So we are strictly working with relatively stable coins here. You can see on Orca that you can do other pools as well that are going to be giving you obviously more of that price range. This is more similar to what you would see on the DLM side. With that, DeFi Tuna builds on top of Orca. So all it does is it inputs some Orca pools here. We'll go to Sol USDC as our stable pair at the moment. And it gives us a range in which we can choose our price range. With that, it gives us plenty of tools to leverage our position. So all this is building on Orca pool, providing lending, which allows us to then take leverage out to take this 2.5%, right, that we see here, right? And we can play with that all we want. And now we're at 13% on a relative stable coin, right, for our 24-hour APR. With that, we then also can get to change our borrow ratio. This borrow ratio is what makes it different in the sense that we can either do a delta neutral position, a full long position, a full short position, or a semi-long or a semi-short. Essentially what that means is, for the simplest explanation, if I do a full USDC borrow, so 100% of my assets I'm only borrowing USDC into my position, is I am full longing SOL. So you can see here that this red candle down here, which signifies my liquidation value, because we are borrowing on leverage, so there is a liquidation risk that can occur, that this is full long. What that means is I'm going to want to bring this percent in on the bottom side, and I can extend this out, and this is now the range of my long, right? Which, as you can see, is still a good percent APR. What that also means, though, is you now have risk to the downside as you would with a standard long position. You can do a semi-long, and we will get into why this is important here in a second. A semi-long position is going to be important because essentially means you can elongate your bottom side range a little bit more, and you're going to incur less impermanent loss to the downside than you would with a full long. I am doing a degen position that I wanted to use as an example for this here. This is a full long position, so I'm only borrowing USDC for this position. My original collateral was $8,000. And as you can see, because my range was very wide, I am incurring quite a large impermanent loss on my original provided collateral. The reason I am doing this, though probably not recommended for others, is that I want to be able to still collect fees in a range because I believe in my current view that we're going to have a small dump, if a dump at all, and then a retrace. Some people may disagree with that, and that's okay. This is just how I believe that I'm trading. And so I'm leveraging my trading position, incurring fees on the downside, and then when it retraces and goes past my EP, my entry price, then I will be having a low leveraged long to the top side while still collecting fees, right? The benefit of this is that anyone who has read my channel is I'm a very firm believer, as how I started in crypto 6 years ago, that you can take $100, $200, $300, $400 and turn it into six figures, multiple six figures. You don't have to do that by playing get rich quick. You don't have to do that with, as people have seen over the past 2 days, losing your ass on meme coins. There are other ways to do that in this space. There are other ways to do that in a relatively safe manner if you do your due diligence and your research. So we will now go back to explaining the other positions. Where now let's say you just want to do a relatively what we call semi-long or delta neutral. Delta neutral means I want about a 50% deposit ratio on both of my position sizes down here. So I'm going to slide this over a little bit. My deposit ratio, now I'm at a delta neutral. So a delta neutral position is going to be that you believe that it's going to range between two set price points and at some point return to the middle. So you're essentially, if I can, let me see if I can pull this up over here. This is going to be funny. We're going to use Microsoft Paint for this. So essentially what we're doing here, let's just make this this works. So we have two lines here. This is what we're going to be using as a financial analysis on our positions. So these are our two bars of our range. Essentially what we're going to be doing here. What's that? Can't see the paint. Oh, that is fair. I will share that screen. Or just change it to Windows. Change Windows. Screens, screen one. There we go. So here we're going to be just doing this right here. These two bars represent the two sides of our range, now that people can see. This curve that we see here is going to represent our delta neutral position. So our liquidity is now spread relatively even across our range, right? Because our liquidity is spread evenly across that range, we're going to incur less IL. Thanks, Robbie, I appreciate that. We're going to be incurring less impermanent loss to either side. So you're going to have less IL. With that, you're going to be collecting a little bit less fees, and you don't have the potential of gaining collateral due to your range increasing or decreasing, because you're going to hit with impermanent loss to either side. So what we're hoping is that it's going to come back to the middle of our range, which is our entry price, and it's just going to be going between those two ranges. Okay. With our long position, and the DeFiTuna community has a ton of educational material on this that has a designer that made this painting, so don't judge me, obviously. If we're wanting this to go to the right side, we want the price of SOL to increase, and we're going to be doing a full long position, right? All we are doing, right, is doing a very small and gradual increase of our range. So once again, I'm not going to be collecting many fees in this range right here. I'm going to be collecting more fees on this side. And then if it goes past my range of earning fees, I'm just going to be increasing the size of my collateral because you're essentially doing a low leverage long at that point. With that, it also works on the flip side. If I want SOL to go to the downside and I'm only borrowing SOL, where I essentially now have a swapped value of SOL to USDC. And the same thing occurs. I'm going to earn less fees in this downside range, which is normally why we want it to be relatively short if we're going on a full short position. I'm going to incur fees in this range, and then I'm going to have a collateral size increase down to the left. And that is the basic explanation of positions in DeFiTuna. So delta neutral, like we said, I'm going to collect a lot of fees in this range, but as the price goes to the downside or the upside, I'm going to be being hit with impermanent loss. With that, we can make this range quite large. Yeah, we'll be doing a live example here shortly. Right? We could be doing this range right here. I just want my 1% a day. People know that I preach and live that 1% a day means that by the end of the year, after 365 days, you're going to have 37 times the amount that you started with. If you start with $1,000, that's $37,000 at the end of the day, right? If you start with $10,000, that's $370,000 at the end of the day. So 1% a day is just my powerful tool that I use that over the past 5 years I've built my portfolio on. During those times, there's also been times where a lot of that value has been made in 2 or 3 months. What we have to know that in the crypto space, it's the power of rotation. And so we're always rotating to the next more powerful tool to leverage our assets while remaining safe by doing due diligence in order to capture the value that we want, consolidate it, make it safe, and then capitalize on it by either doing leverage plays, lending, staking. If you have money that is just sitting in crypto, there's no reason to be in this space. This isn't just investing where you're just buying bonds and you're taking 4% a year. In my humble opinion, obviously. And then obviously, we can do a full borrow SOL position. This would be a full short position. We see it's semi-short right now, but that's because when I increase my leverage, goes to a full short position. And then with that, we would bring in this price range right here. This is what a full short position would look like. With that, we will now do a live example of a delta neutral position. So however you chart, this now comes to personal preference. I'm a very simple charting person. I said that we would talk about a little bit of how I do my due diligence on charting and how I want to enter a leverage position, if I want to enter a leverage position, and so forth. And so I really only trade SOL. You're never going to see me do an ETH leverage trade or a BTC leverage trade. But my SOL due diligence is based around BTC. With that, I like this indicator, which just gives me some statistics as to price ranges over the past time periods. If you want to look it up on TradingView, it's just called the Spaceman BTC key levels. It's going to give you the previous weekly high, previous month high, and then daily high, and then weekly highs and lows. And then monthly opens and closes. And then I use stochastic RSI, right? Sometimes I will do Bollinger Bands for volume plays, just to see when volume